Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Steve Haffner of stevehafner.com. Steve, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks. Great to be here with you, Gresh. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Steve so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Steve had a 30-year career as an IT professional and executive for companies such as Mercer EDS and Humana. His area of expertise were performance, measurement, and quality assurance. And then in 2011, he chucked that career to launch his own business as a magician, as a magician, mentalist, and professional speaker. As a decision performance specialist, Steve helps leaders and professionals understand and break through their cognitive illusions so that they can elevate their ability to achieve their goal and understand and live their values. Steve, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's do it then. So to kind of kick everything off, I wanted to rewind the clock a little bit and hear a little bit more on how you got started, what I call your CEO story.
Sure. Yeah. So I had a 30-year career in IT. I had a computer science degree and jumped in as a programmer and a systems analyst, systems engineer, various titles throughout my career. And I did like programming. But, my passions were really when I was younger, and I should say passions and talents, I was really into the creative side. I was into creative writing and performing. I was in all the plays in grade school and high school, and I was into that side. But computer programming, that was a safe path to take, and I have no regrets about going with that path. It served me well. I was very successful at it, and made decent money doing it. Then it was back in about 2010. I had developed magic as a hobby, mainly at first as a way to entertain my kids. I thought they would like it maybe as much as I did when I was young, and turned out as I started getting into magic again, I thought, oh, I wonder if I could make this as a living. And I kind of looked at the environment, the local market, and I saw that there were a couple of people that were doing it, but the market was far from saturated. And I thought, wow, could I do this? Could I actually make a living as a magician? And of course, I had this voice in the back of my head pop up and say, "What, are you crazy? We're in the middle of a recession. You've got a successful career. You've got a family to support, and you're wanting to go do magic tricks. You need to grow up." And this was a loud voice. I call it the lizard brain voice. And so I was, I was like, well, you're right. You're right. And so I put it on the back burner, for a while. But then the situation, I had changed jobs. I'd gone from the tech side into management, and I was in a claims department of a insurance company as a business analyst. And I wasn't really loving it. I had shifted so much from the tech side, which I had enjoyed. And then this company lost their contract. They had one contract with the government and they lost it. They got outbid. And so we all thought, we got to do something new. How we got to update our resumes and find another job. Well, I had just done that a year prior. Didn't really feel like doing it again. And I was kind of burnt out. I didn't have enthusiasm for what I was doing. And in the back of my mind, I was still thinking, boy, I would love to have a shot at making that magic thing happen for me. So I'd driven to work one day. I was sitting in my car in the parking lot, and I wasn't getting out of my car because it's like, what am I going to do? I've got this tough decision to make. I really want to do this one thing, but I don't have the confidence to do it. I'm worried about it, and that was a painful situation. Really, if you have any life decision to make that's going to have a big impact on you and other people, and you're struggling with it, that can be very uncomfortable. So I was sitting there in my car and I heard the song come on the radio that I had never heard before. And I started listening to it. And it was so bizarre that it came up just at that moment when I was struggling with this decision. And in fact, I've never heard that song since on the radio. And some of the lyrics said, there comes a time when you have to ask yourself, where am I going? What have I done? Are you taking the orders that you've been given, or are you breaking the rules with your own decisions? Isn't it time you tried? Found out later this was called Living the Life by Martin Sexton. And I heard it and I had this wave of knowledge, of relief, of kind of breaking through the uncertainty. And it actually, I had tears because of this overwhelming emotional feeling. And I'm not much of a crier, Gresh, but there it was. And I knew, here, this is what I need to do. So I went in. 10 minutes later, I'm sitting in my boss's office telling him I'm quitting to become a magician. And that's what I did. And since then, I have pivoted a bit, and I am now a professional speaker. And I speak on decision performance. But I use what I learned as a magician, the psychology of how our minds are fooled and the subconscious illusions we have. I use that to as the basis of teaching people how to make better decisions by overcoming those kind of illusions, which are cognitive biases, distortions, heuristics, which are shortcuts that we make at the subconscious level that can all take us off our path, move us away from our goals, and keep us from living our values. So that's basically that's my path, and that's how I got to be where I am now as a business owner.
Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate you for sharing that. And I think so many times, we have these, I guess, crossroad decisions that we want to make. And so many times we have that voice, that intuition, maybe even that's saying, go with the thing that may not be the popular path. And then we have a lot of times the safe path. And I'm a big believer in it's easier said than done a lot of times, but sometimes the worst pain is not in trying and failing or trying and things actually working out, but it's sometimes trying and never trying at all, I should say. And that fear of regret is often the worst pain that you can have because that voice might get quieter, but it never fully goes away. So I appreciate you for, talking about that, talking about a lot of those, wrestling decisions that we have to make. But I love how you went through and just made that decision and how that has manifested itself into everything that you're doing. Because I've always heard that one of the big parts about, magic and magicians is actually I guess I don't know if it's tricks is the right word to say, that it can play with your mind, and understanding that aspect of it is a huge part to being like a really really great magician. So I love how that translates.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about from a magician standpoint, it's about being able to manipulate and control your attention and your expectations and your assumptions and your preferences, and that all goes into what makes the illusion an actual illusion and look like magic. But it's those same types of underlying things that go on in our mind as far as our attention and our assumptions and expectations that can lead us astray when you take it outside of a magic show and talk about how it affects us in our lives and our decision making. So yeah, it's been really valuable. And you know what? I have failed many times in my business. I have, it hasn't been a smooth ride. And I don't think any entrepreneurship, any business journey is a smooth ride. You're going to fail, but you set yourself up so that you can make adjustments and pivot and respond to the failure, in a way that'll move you towards your goals.
Absolutely. And failure doesn't become true failure, at least I think, until you actually quit. And if you understand that, hey, this didn't work, but let me pivot to this or pivot to that, that provides those opportunities to still continue on. And so I know you mentioned, pivoting in your business and talking more about the speaking and everything you're doing and how that overlaps into the magician and all of those aspects that you do. Could you take us through a little bit more of that and how you serve your clients and what you do to kind of support them?
Sure. So I had, I was doing magic. I was doing magic shows mostly for kids. I mean, that was my favorite kind of magic to do. I did school shows and festivals and fairs and that kind of thing. But I wasn't getting to the income level that I wanted to get to. I was making money, but I wanted to go to a higher level. So I got into corporate entertainment, doing mentalism programs, and that's a branch of magic that it deals with psychological illusions, mind reading, and subliminal influence, and that kind of thing. And but still, I found out when I was doing corporate work that most corporate events and association events don't have an entertainment budget. So that knocked out most of them right away as potential prospects, but they all have an education budget. Now they do want entertainment. Here's the interesting thing. They want entertainment. They just can't call it that. So they want to bring in speakers and keynote speakers and, breakout sessions that are entertaining and engaging, but they have an educational element too, so
Mhm.
people have takeaways as well. And I'm like, so, and I knew that I had this background both in the corporate world and through magic, understanding the psychology of decision making that I could build on and become a speaker. And then I could reach a wider audience, and prospecting and lead generation would not be as difficult because people would be like, yeah, we hire keynote speakers. What do you got? So that's how I went into speaking. And I coined the term decision performance. And that has been an ongoing process, but I love where I have it now with decision performance, because I think that people can kind of understand what it means just by hearing it. It's not a term that they've probably heard before, so it's fairly unique to myself, and they don't quite know what it is because of the uniqueness. So that incentivizes them to learn more. So that's what I like about that branding message, I guess, of I help people with decision performance, which is your ability to have your decisions achieve your goals and align with your values.
Nice. I absolutely love that. I've heard the term edutainment. So I love how you came to that and be able to understand, because I think so many times we create things and we do things, but we don't have our target market, the people we're trying to serve, in our mindsight, our hindsight, or in our mind's eye, I should say. And I think when we're able to kind of understand that, and we're able to understand how we can translate whatever we're doing to fit that, that's when things really reach another level. So I love that you've been able to do that, entertain the people that you serve, but at the same time give them that education, that value that they're looking to get, and of course budget for as well too. So that always helps out a lot.
Right. And I do still use some magical segments in my
Mhm.
programs, but I
Right.
use them to illustrate, I use them as teaching tools to say, okay, here's what happened to your mind when we just did that trick. And here's how that same thing going on in your mind affects you when you're trying to, make a decision when you're faced with a major disruption, so something like that. So I can use the entertainment as a touchstone for the educational material.
Yeah, and that's extremely fascinating, because I think, yeah, so many times, especially when you're so fascinated as a child, you don't really learn about the mind part of it, and to be able to understand that and then understand how that translates into the decisions that we make on a regular everyday basis is absolutely huge. And so, would you consider that to be what I call your secret sauce, the thing you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique? Is it that ability to translate that message from something we probably all enjoyed as kids into something that is really tangible for us to use as leaders and executives?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that speaks to my variety of backgrounds, because there's a lot of magicians that have never been in the corporate world. They've never been in that business environment. So because I had that 30-year career prior to making this jump, I think it gives me kind of unique perspective, taking insights from both of those and what I have learned by researching, reading about psychology, behavioral economics, neuroscience, and combining that all, I think is a pretty unique combination of, I don't know, skills and perspectives and insights that I can bring to my programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the definition of the secret sauce, to be able to kind of blend all those things together into something, really phenomenal. Because like I've said, and, you mentioned as well too, to be able to kind of translate that and understand that from your different experiences allows you, I think, to communicate on different levels with people, because you get the understanding of both aspects and they're able to blend them together.
Yep. Yep. Well said.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Yeah, I discovered, excuse me, the Heath brothers, Dan Heath and Chip Heath, and
Mhm.
they are authors. And a book of theirs that is a little lesser known, because they're known for their book Switch and Made to Stick. Those are two of their more popular titles. But they had one called Decisive, which was just opened up so much to me as far as decision making goes. And I think it's really important for anyone that is an entrepreneur or a CEO of their own business to work on yourself as much as you work on your business. And by always continuing to learn and grow your knowledge of how your own mind works is, I think vital to improving, to growing, to getting better at what you do. And it's kind of a foundation. So yeah, all the books actually by the Heath brothers, I think, help with that, help you to build your personal development. They call them soft skills, but I think decision making is, it's vital. It's something we all have to do. In fact, it's what we get paid for, being able to make great decisions. So I would go with that. I'd also like to add, I just finished a new book by Adam Grant called Think Again. Awesome book about rethinking, not being married to our beliefs, and having the will and the ability to rethink our beliefs as we are exposed to new evidence, and to always be open, thinking how can I understand how I might have been wrong before, and how can I improve so that I'm less wrong now. So yeah, Think Again by
Yeah.
Adam Grant.
Not nice. I appreciate both of those, those hacks because I think so many times, as you said so well, like we don't realize the impact that our mind has. And you said, soft skills. I would even gather to say they're glue skills because they basically will go into everything that you're doing, whether they're talking about business or we're talking about where to go to eat, for dinner or whatever that might be, and everything in between and all around. And I think when you start to understand that, and as you said so well, you start to understand yourself, it gives you a little bit more, I guess, control, but just even awareness about why you're making certain decisions, how maybe to change the way that those decisions are leading to the outcomes. But you have a little bit more awareness. And I think it's just something that's extremely empowering to me.
Yeah, I love that term you use, glue skills. That's great.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And so I wanted to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. So this could be a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
Yeah. I would say to set tripwires. So this was something that was talked about in the book Decisive by the Heath brothers, but it was something that I had already implemented earlier. And what that means is when you make a big decision about how you're going to move forward, say in your business, set tripwires, set reminders or checkpoints along the way that you're going to say at this particular point in time or this other particular milestone, I am going to take a look at. I'm going to sit down and reevaluate the decision. What has happened regarding that decision since then? Do I need to make an adjustment? Do I need to reevaluate? Um, for example, I had decided I was going to work in the trade show market, doing entertainment for companies that were exhibiting at trade shows, and that's a big potential market if you can get people to understand the value of having an entertainer in there that that talks about your message. But anyway, I had decided I was going to go into that. I was going to reach into that market, and if after a year, I decided it was going to be June 30th of that year. If I had not made the inroads that I didn't, and that I wanted to, and I set a specific monetary goal, and I said if I haven't made this much revenue from trade shows, then I'm going to pivot into speaking. And so I did. And when I got to that point, I had made some money in trade shows, but I didn't reach the level that I had set for myself. I said, okay, I'm going to now go into my speaking business. And that's what I did. I set that tripwire to reevaluate and take a look. Because if you don't set those tripwires ahead of time, you're going to forget, and you're just going to keep going. And you may be going down the wrong path and not going towards the goals that you set and that you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's extremely powerful. I love that phrase, tripwires. I definitely now have to check out that book and drill down into it because it's so powerful because I think we don't realize that we have a limited amount of resources and opportunities. So if we are focusing on one aspect or, one focus of our business, we might be potentially blocking ourselves from another opportunity if we continue to kind of go down that what could be a rabbit hole, I guess you can say. But if we have those, tripwires set up, again, like as we were talking about failure, it's not failure if you pivot. You just understand you didn't reach the level of success that you wanted to. So maybe there's another opportunity that we can move into.
Right, right. Yep. Well said. And you're talking about how to spend your resources, and that's key. And I think that is what being a CEO really means to me, is focusing on your resources, both your personal and your organizational resources, and how are you going to allocate those and be deliberate, make the decision. This is how I'm going to do it, and that speaks to uh, productivity and reaching your goals and living your values, and that's all based on how you allocate your resources. So time, money, talent, attention, energy. Energy is a big one, and we can build that up. So that's one of the things that I think people need to pay more attention to, is how can you give yourself more energy, both physically, by good health habits, but also by doing things that give you energy. It's like my old career. I no longer had enthusiasm for it. It was draining my energy. And once I switched and became my own business owner, uh, my energy level went way up. So yeah. So think about your personal resources and how you allocate them.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I love that definition, that perspective on, what it means to be a CEO, because I think so many times we think of resources sometimes just about money. But I appreciate you for breaking down all of those aspects, especially that energy piece, because I think that we don't realize that not only are we kind of putting our energy into certain places, we also have that opportunity to be aware of where we're refilling our energy, or getting stronger, as a result of the things that we're doing. And it makes us be a lot more cognizant about the decisions that we're making, how we're cultivating our mind, and the things that we're doing to help us to reach the goals and where we ultimately want to be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true. And energy is one of those things that sometimes you don't pay attention to it, and your energy level is low, and you're spending time with people who drain your energy from you, and you don't even realize it. So again, it's one of those things we have to think about. I love the term metacognition, which is
Mhm.
thinking about your thinking. I
Mm.
think people just do that a little bit more, and that envelops mindfulness and emotional intelligence, all those things. Just think about how your mind works, because your mind is the decision, or is the engine that drives your success, right? So the more you know about it, the more you know about the tool, the better you can use it to become successful. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we understand that it's not something that's passive, but it's something that we can, pay attention to, potentially redirect, like you mentioned that engine analogy. I absolutely love that, because it allows you to be aware, to do, I guess, the homework, the due diligence, all the work, the awesome work that you do, to be able to understand it more, and then be able to kind of redirect it towards where we ultimately hope to be.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Steve, well, I truly appreciate that definition. I appreciate all the awesome work you do. And what I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Well, they can get a hold of me at my website, stevehaffner.com. And that's SteveHaffner.com. And I have a small ebook out there that's available for free. It's called 7 Strategies for Making Great Decisions. So it's a quick read. It's like 25 pages, and gives you some things to think about that you can improve if you want to improve your decision making. Also have a weekly newsletter, and it's called Cognizance, and it's all about what basically what we talked about today: how to make better decisions, what's going on in our mind, what are some of the illusions and the biases and shortcuts that may be tripping us up, in how we go about our thinking and decision making. And I know people think, newsletter, I don't want any more email. But if that email is valuable to you and useful, maybe you do want it, right? So you can subscribe to that on my website as well. And you can unsubscribe. I'm not going to spam you or anything like that if you sign up for the newsletter. And I'm doing lots of speaking. The speaking industry, the speaking business is opening back up. COVID completely shut it down, at least as far as in person goes. But I'm doing lots of virtual speaking and in-person ones, since people are scheduling into the summer and the fall and next year. So yeah, if you're, if for your organization, if you're looking for, somebody to speak on decision performance, you can get a hold of me that way.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. We will have the links and information in the show notes to get a hold of you as well too. But you're absolutely right. You're providing loads of amount of value into like everything that you're doing, and the understanding of self and how our mind works, which I think is huge, because it manifests itself into our decisions, the things that we see in our lives, where we are, where we aren't, and just how we're able to kind of understand all those steps and how that works all in tandem. So truly appreciate you for the work you do. Of course, the time you took today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Oh, thanks, Gresh. It's been great talking to you. Have a great weekend.
You too.